Matt's senses reeled as he stepped fully into the darkness. The alleyway and the familiar world now vanished behind him. The shadows seemed to twist and coil around him, whispering secrets he could almost understand but never fully grasp. The air smelled of decay and cold metal, a suffocating blend that made his stomach churn. Every step echoed unnaturally, as if the ground itself resented his presence. Shapes flickered at the edges of his vision, half-formed figures, some human-like, others grotesque, melting into the darkness whenever he turned his head. Matt's pulse raced. He could feel the presence of something watching him, tracking his every move. "Matt?" The voice came again, soft, almost comforting, yet laced with venom. "Why do you resist?" He spun around, trying to locate the source, but the corridor was endless. Mirrors lined the walls, their cracked surfaces reflecting more than just his fear. Twisted versions of his past, fractured memories he wished he could forget. Each reflection seemed to reach for him, pressing behind the glass, silently screaming. Matt forced himself to keep moving, his legs trembling with exhaustion and terror. He noticed that some of the shadows had begun to detach themselves from the walls, floating just above the ground. They had a life of their own, creeping toward him, whispering words in a language he could not comprehend. A sudden cold wind swept through the corridor, extinguishing the faint, ghostly glow that had guided him. He stumbled, falling to his knees. The whispers turned to voices, hollow and echoing, filling his mind with images of pain, loss, and despair. It was as if the shadows were feeding on his fear, twisting it into something tangible. Matt felt his sanity stretch thin. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. He tried to run, but the corridor seemed to stretch infinitely, folding upon itself, leading him deeper into the nightmare. Every turn revealed another mirror, another version of himself screaming silently, pleading, warning. Then he saw it, a doorway, slightly ajar, emanating a dim, sickly light. It was the only place that seemed to resist the oppressive darkness. Matt crawled toward it, each movement an effort as invisible hands seemed to tug at him, trying to drag him back. As he entered, the voices shifted. They were no longer whispers, they had become cries, wailing in unison. The room was vast, seemingly endless, lined with rows upon rows of empty chairs. In the center, a single figure sat, shrouded in shadow. The figure's face was obscured, yet he felt its gaze pierce through him, a cold, calculating stare that stripped him of hope. "You've come," the figure said, its voice smooth, almost human, yet layered with countless underlying tones, each one a scream of torment. Matt froze. He wanted to run, to turn back, but he felt rooted to the floor. The room seemed to pulse with a life of its own, the walls bending and stretching, shadows flowing like water. "Why, what do you want from me?" Matt's voice finally emerged, trembling. The figure's laugh was low and resonant, reverberating through the room. "You will learn soon enough. Every step you've taken has led you here, to face what you cannot escape. To understand the truth, you must embrace the darkness." Suddenly, the empty chairs began to shift, moving as though guided by unseen hands. Each chair seemed to hold a presence, a hollow soul trapped in the endless night. They whispered his name in unison, calling him, beckoning him closer, their hollow voices filling every corner of his mind. Matt stumbled backward, terror consuming him, yet he could not turn away. The figure rose slowly, revealing a form both human and inhuman, a grotesque amalgamation of faces and limbs constantly reshaping itself. Each face that passed over it whispered Matt's deepest fears, his failures, his secrets, until he felt every part of him stripped bare. "You see?" the figure said, tilting its head. "Fear is only the beginning. The shadows hunger, and they have chosen you." The chairs around him now formed a circle, moving closer with every breath he took. The hollow voices rose in a cacophony of despair, pressing into his mind, threatening to shatter his reason. Matt dropped to his knees, clutching his head, screaming silently as the darkness pressed in from every side. Then, in the midst of the chaos, a small, quiet voice broke through. "Matt, listen, follow the light." He turned his head slightly and noticed a faint glimmer emanating from a crack in the far wall. It was faint, barely perceptible, but it was something. Hope, maybe. Or a trick of the mind. Desperate, he crawled toward it, ignoring the hollow voices that clawed at his sanity. The moment he touched the crack, the room shifted violently. Shadows writhed, the figures screamed, and the hollow voices became a deafening roar. Matt felt himself being pulled through the void, twisted, thrown, until he landed hard on cold stone. He opened his eyes to darkness, yet the faint light still glimmered ahead. The whispers had not stopped. They had become a low hum, but now he had a direction, a fragile thread to cling to in the endless night. And as he rose, clutching the cold stone, he realized the terrifying truth. The shadows were not just around him. They were inside him. Matt's heart hammered against his chest as he followed the faint glimmer of light through the oppressive darkness. The air was thick, almost viscous, pressing against him with every step. The whispers from before had not ceased. They had only evolved, becoming more insistent, more personal. Every corner he turned, the voices spoke his name, recounting memories he had tried desperately to bury. The corridor stretched infinitely, twisting and folding in ways that made no logical sense. Walls appeared to bend, floors seemed to ripple beneath his feet, and the ceiling oscillated like it was breathing. Matt's mind fought to grasp the reality around him, but each step made the world feel more unreal. He could hear the faint scratching of claws along stone walls, though he could see no creature in sight. Suddenly, the ground beneath him gave way. He fell into a pit of darkness, landing hard on the cold, wet stones below. The impact knocked the breath from his lungs, and he groaned, trying to rise. When he looked up, he realized the pit was not just a drop in the corridor. It was an entirely separate realm, as if he had crossed into another dimension entirely. The walls here were covered in a strange organic growth, pulsating with a dim, sickly light. Strange symbols were etched into the surfaces, shifting and writhing as if alive. Matt reached out to touch one, and a searing pain shot through his arm. The symbol glowed brighter, revealing a reflection not of Matt, but of someone he feared he might become. A twisted version of himself, hollow-eyed, grinning with malice. A voice echoed from above, mocking, cruel. "Welcome to the truth, Matt. There is no turning back." He looked around frantically, searching for a way out. The pit was deeper than he could see, and shadows pooled at the edges, lapping at the walls like black water. Every step he took sent echoes down the dark chasm, and with each echo he felt the presence of countless eyes watching him, analyzing, judging. Matt's hands found a ledge protruding from the wall, slick and wet with something that resembled blood. Climbing cautiously, he ascended toward another passage, praying that it would lead him out. As he reached the top, the corridor opened into a vast chamber. The chamber was massive and yet eerily empty. Its walls were lined with hundreds of doors, each slightly ajar, revealing darkness beyond. Matt approached one, peering inside. The room was empty, but he could hear whispers emanating from within. They were his thoughts, his fears, his regrets, spoken aloud in voices that were not his own. A sudden chill swept through the chamber. From the far end, a figure emerged, tall and gaunt, its form flickering between human and shadow. The figure moved with unnatural grace, each step silent yet deliberate.
Matt's stomach twisted as the figure's face came into view. It was a mask of shifting features, each one a distorted memory of someone he had known, friends, strangers, loved ones, all twisted into grotesque caricatures. "You cannot escape," the figure whispered, tilting its head. "Every choice, every step, every fear has led you here. This is your destiny." Matt backed away, but the floor seemed to shift beneath him, tilting and sliding. The doors around him began to close one by one, each emitting a shriek as it shut. He ran, leaping over gaps in the floor, diving under falling debris, desperate to reach the faint light that had guided him before. One door slammed behind him, catching his shoulder. Pain shot through his arm as he struggled to free himself. The shadowy figure's laughter echoed, bouncing off the walls, growing louder, more consuming. Matt pulled with all his strength, finally breaking free, but the corridor beyond had changed. It was narrower, the walls now covered in eyes that blinked in unison, following his every movement. The whispers intensified, now chanting in unison, forming sentences he could understand. "You are ours. You belong to the darkness. You will never leave." Fear gripped him, but Matt forced himself to focus. He had to move forward, had to keep seeking the light. Each step felt heavier, as if the shadows were trying to crush him from within. He stumbled, falling to his knees, but the glow in the distance pulsed again, guiding him. As he neared the source of the light, the shadows reached for him, elongated arms of darkness curling around his legs, dragging him down. He screamed, pulling with all his strength. Pain shot through his body, but with a final effort, he broke free, vaulting into the light. The corridor changed instantly. The oppressive darkness lifted slightly, replaced by an eerie, pale illumination. The walls no longer whispered in torment, but seemed to hum with an unnatural energy. Matt's chest heaved, sweat and blood mingling as he tried to comprehend what had just happened. Ahead, the corridor narrowed into a spiral staircase leading upward. Hesitant, but driven, Matt climbed, each step creaking beneath his weight. At the top, he emerged into another chamber. This one filled with mirrors, each reflecting not just his image, but his fears, his regrets, and the shadows that haunted him. A soft voice reached him through the reflections. "Matt, you are closer. The truth waits for you." As he approached the central mirror, he realized that the shadows were no longer just outside him, they were part of him. Every flicker, every movement, every whisper had been feeding into his soul, shaping him, testing him. And now the final trial awaited. Matt's reflection rippled, and from the mirror stepped another figure, himself, but not. Hollow-eyed, twisted, smiling with malice. The final confrontation was inevitable, and Matt knew that only by facing this reflection, he could hope to survive the darkness that sought to consume him. The hollow corridor fell silent. Matt drew a deep breath, preparing to face the shadow of himself.
Matt stood frozen before the twisted reflection of himself, feeling the weight of every choice, every regret pressing down on his chest. The hollow eyes of the shadowy figure bore into him, seeing through the layers of fear he had meticulously built to protect himself. The air was thick with a cold, unnatural chill, seeping into his bones, whispering promises of despair. The reflection took a step forward, its movements eerily synchronized with Matt's own heartbeat. "You've come far," it said in a voice that was his own, but laced with venom. "But the darkness inside you is still hungry." Matt clenched his fists, trying to summon courage. I won't let you control me." The figure laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the chamber of mirrors, bouncing off every reflective surface and multiplying into a cacophony of dread. "Control?" it hissed. "You never had control. You were never free. Every step you took was already written. Every fear you felt, every sorrow, all feeding me. Matt's vision blurred as memories began to flood the mirrors. Each one displayed a different version of his past, moments of betrayal, loss, and shame he had tried to bury deep within. Faces of those he loved twisted into mocking grins, shadows of their former selves. He realized that the mirrors weren't just reflections, they were conduits, feeding the dark reflection, giving it life. Suddenly, a mirror shattered behind him. Matt spun around to see shards raining down, each fragment reflecting scenes more horrifying than the last. The sound of breaking glass was deafening, yet the figure before him remained untouched, growing larger, more menacing. "You cannot hide," it whispered. "The past will always find you." Desperation surged through Matt. He needed a way to fight back, to reclaim control over his own mind. He remembered something, an old tale his grandfather once told him about facing fears not with violence but with understanding. Taking a trembling step forward, Matt closed his eyes and focused. He envisioned each memory not as a source of shame or fear, but as a lesson, a fragment of strength he had survived through. The reflection recoiled as Matt spoke aloud. "I am more than my mistakes. I am more than my fears. You are not me. You are just a shadow of what I let linger." The figure screeched, a sound that seemed to ripple through reality itself. The mirrors around them trembled, their surfaces warping and bending. Shadows reached out from the broken shards trying to ensnare Matt, but he stood firm, grounded by the newfound resolve within him. Then, one mirror, the largest in the chamber, began to glow. It didn't reflect fear or despair. Instead, it shimmered with faint golden light, showing glimpses of hope, courage, and resilience. Matt took a step closer, feeling the warmth seeping into him, fighting the cold claws of darkness that had gripped his soul for so long. The shadow figure lunged, but Matt met it head-on, stepping through the mirror's glow. The world around him twisted violently, a maelstrom of light and shadow spinning out of control. Pain and fear surged, but Matt clenched his teeth and pushed forward. Each heartbeat synchronized with the light, each breath feeding his courage. Suddenly, he was no longer in the chamber. The mirrors were gone, replaced by a foggy expanse where whispers still lingered, but now they were softer, questioning rather than mocking. Shapes moved in the mist, faces of friends, strangers, loved ones, all distorted, but now less threatening. Matt realized that he had crossed another threshold, deeper into the darkness, yet paradoxically closer to understanding. The reflection was gone, but he could feel its essence still lurking, a reminder that the battle was not over. The fog thickened, and from within the fog, a pathway appeared, lit faintly by phosphorescent light. He knew that this was the path forward, leading to the next revelation, the next trial. As he walked, whispers of the past mingled with the present, forming sentences that seemed almost coherent. "Matt, you must forgive. You must endure. The truth is near." A sudden movement in the fog caught his attention. Figures emerged, indistinct and wraith-like, circling him. Each one represented a memory, a fear, a loss. Their touch was cold, sapping his strength, but Matt resisted. He raised his hands, imagining light radiating from him, pushing back the wraiths with his newfound resolve. They screeched, dissolving into mist as he advanced. Yet, the deeper he walked, the heavier the air became, thick with the scent of decay and whispers of despair. A sense of inevitability hung over him. Whatever lay ahead was not just a challenge of the mind, but of the soul. At the center of the foggy expanse, a figure awaited, taller than any shadow he had faced before. Its form blurred and flickered. The air around it vibrated with power, a mix of malevolence and seduction. "You are brave," it said, voice deep and resonant. "But bravery alone will not save you. To move forward, you must confront the ultimate truth. What you fear most is not outside, it is within." Matt swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the words. For the first time he understood. The darkness he had battled, the shadows that haunted him, the twisted reflections, they were all pieces of himself. To survive, to escape this realm of torment, he would have to face not just the shadow, but the core of his own fear, the insecurities and guilt he had carried for a lifetime. He nodded, steeling himself. "Then I'll face it. Whatever it is, I won't run." The figure extended a hand, and the fog around it surged violently, swirling into a vortex of memories and fears. Matt stepped forward, heart pounding, ready to confront the next stage of his journey. The path ahead was uncertain, terrifying, yet for the first time he felt a spark of hope amidst the relentless darkness. And so Matt ventured deeper into the heart of the shadows, knowing that each step would bring him closer to the truth and closer to the ultimate confrontation with himself. Matt stepped cautiously into the labyrinth, its walls composed of shifting shadows that seemed alive, breathing and writhing around him. Every turn he took led to another corridor, identical yet subtly different, as if the maze itself was aware of his presence, studying him, testing him. The whispers returned, soft and insidious, coiling around his mind, threatening to pull him into panic. "You cannot escape," the whispers hissed. "Every choice, every step leads you deeper until you are lost forever." Matt's palms were slick with sweat, his heart hammering in his chest. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to remember what he had learned in the Chamber of Mirrors. Fear was only power if he let it control him. He focused on each whisper, dissecting it, understanding it, refusing to succumb. The labyrinth seemed endless. Shadows stretched and twisted, forming grotesque shapes that resembled people from his past. He saw a figure that looked like his childhood friend, smiling maliciously, then shifting into a stranger with hollow eyes. Each vision tugged at memories he had long buried, mistakes, regrets, losses, but Matt forced himself forward, step by step. A low, grumbling growl echoed through the corridor. The air vibrated with menace as a pair of glowing red eyes appeared in the darkness ahead. A creature, half formed from shadow and mist, lurched toward him. Its movements were unnatural, jagged, as if reality itself rejected its existence. Matt raised his hands, remembering the light he had conjured in the mirror chamber. He focused, and a faint glow emanated from his palms. The creature shrieked, recoiling from the light, but it was relentless. Each step Matt took was met with another wave of shadow, crawling along the walls, snaking across the floor, trying to ensnare him. He sprinted, dodging and weaving, the whispers screaming all around him. "You cannot run, you cannot hide, your fear is your chains." Suddenly, the corridor opened into a vast hall, its ceiling lost in darkness. At the center, a pool of black liquid reflected distorted images of the labyrinth, twisting and writhing. From the liquid emerged shadowy figures, each one a fragment of Matt's deepest fears: failure, loneliness, betrayal. They moved with terrifying coordination, closing in from all directions. Matt's mind raced. He realized brute force wouldn't save him this time. He had to confront the fears, acknowledge them, and accept their presence without letting them define him. He closed his eyes, drew a deep breath, and faced each apparition in his mind. "I see you. I know what you are. You are part of me, but you do not control me." The shadows hesitated, then shrieked, writhing violently as Matt's inner light strengthened. Slowly, the red eyes dimmed, and the monstrous forms began to dissolve into mist. The labyrinth itself shuddered, walls quivering as if resisting his progress, but the path ahead became clearer. Matt moved forward, each step echoing like a drumbeat in the vast hall. The whispers softened, no longer mocking but curious, observing his determination. "Perhaps you are different. Perhaps you will survive." A door appeared at the far end of the hall, ancient and carved with symbols that seemed to move under his gaze. As Matt approached, the ground trembled, and a final voice rose above all others, a deep resonant tone, commanding and familiar. "Matt, you have done well to come this far, but the heart of the labyrinth still awaits." He reached out, placing his hand on the door. A surge of energy pulsed through him, a mixture of fear, anticipation, and resolve. He knew that whatever lay beyond would challenge him like nothing before, testing not just his courage, but the essence of his soul. Taking a deep breath, Matt pushed the door open. A blinding light enveloped him, yet through it he glimpsed an even darker void beyond. The whispers fell silent, replaced by an eerie stillness that pressed against him from all sides. In that stillness, he felt the weight of every decision, every moment that had led him here. Matt stepped through and the world shifted. He was no longer in a labyrinth, but in a realm where shadows merged with light, where reality bent and twisted. The path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and filled with trials yet unseen. But he moved forward, each step a testament to his resilience, his courage, and his determination to confront the ultimate truths that awaited him. As he ventured deeper into this surreal expanse, he realized the labyrinth had taught him a crucial lesson. The shadows outside were only as powerful as the darkness he allowed within. And as long as he held on to the spark of hope, no fear, no shadow could ever truly consume him. The journey was far from over. Ahead, deeper into the void, lay challenges more sinister than anything he had faced. But Matt was ready. With every heartbeat, he felt the power growing within him, a power not of shadows, but of light, courage, and unyielding resolve. And so Matt walked on into the unknown, where the labyrinth's whispers faded behind him, and the next trial awaited in the shadows ahead.